check out for myself. Yes. All right. The next presentation in this session is shot sequencing, measuring quality possession through passing metrics by Ryan Stimson. Ryan began his passing projects 2 seasons ago, and most of his writing can be found on the New Jersey Devils SBN Nation site, In Lou We Trust. He's also contributed a few articles to Hockey Prospectus. When this project began primarily to help explain why the Devils were so poor despite their strong possession numbers in 2013 and 14. It quickly offered new and more precise ways to analyze players and teams, as he realized that delving into the passing phase of the game explained much more than standard shot differential metrics. So Ryan Stimson.
Are we good back there? Back of the room? Okay. All right, so again, just to get right into it, when we started this, we wanted to try to find as much skill that the players had in creating shot attempts. So we came up with a series of definitions to use for our tracking methodology. We wanted to track mostly just the intentional attempts to get the puck to a teammate. You know, this could be a kick of a skate, a hand pass were illegal, you know, a tape-to-tape pass. But we wanted to try to remove as much randomness to how teams generated offense as we could. The 3 components to any passing sequence, we tracked the shooter, the primary passer, and the secondary passer. We tracked the build-up play, again, the number of passers, whether or not the passes were in transition, meaning passes were made prior to the puck entering the offensive zone. Also, we had location markers in the offensive zone, whether a pass was made in and around the scoring chance area, the home plate area that I'm sure many of you are familiar with. Also, if it was out of the scoring chance, we just marked it as a regular offensive zone chance, you know, less dangerous outside that area. RR stands for the Royal Road concept that Steve Valquette made famous several months ago. Again, that's the line extending out from the goal to the top of the face-off circles. The logic behind that is a pass across that line forces the goalie to move laterally. You know, he has to reset and track the puck again, opening up holes in his stance. It's very important to goal creation. And then finally, the shot status. Was the shot a one-timer or not? So the first couple things we can do here is get an idea of precisely how players drive offense, whether they are passengers on a line or they are drivers. So what we have here, this takes in a, hold your giggles. No, come on. So again, this data, most of the data you're going to see are from the 6 teams that we have the most data on. Those are the Devils, Islanders, Capitals, Rangers, Panthers, and Blackhawks. Okay. What this does is it takes into account every individual shot attempt, primary pass that led to a shot attempt, and secondary pass led to a shot attempt for each player. The y-axis are those shot attempt contributions per 60 minutes. The x-axis represents the percentage of on-ice attempts a player contributes to. So when that player's on the ice, how much offense goes through that player, right? How integral are they to a team's offensive generation? Anyone care to guess the lone dot in the top right corner? Teuvo Teravainen. We only have a dozen games on him, but it was remarkable how high his production was in those games. Scoring chance contributions, again, same concept, although you see more of a grouping in the center. Okay, these are, you know, less frequent events. Now, whenever you're going to track some stats, it has to be important. You know, do you win? Do you score goals? So what we have here is this sample represents, of the 428 games we tracked this season, 325 finished in regulation. The reason we focus on regulation is we only track stats in 5-on-5 situations. The blue bars, so this represents your winning percentage of those games. The blue bars represents passing metrics. The green bars represents the corresponding score-adjusted Corsi, shot, and Fenwick differentials for those games. The first bar here is the number of shots, whichever team had greater possession of shots generated from passes in close situations. Yes, I did say close situations because you cannot manually check score-adjusted situations. So, but as we see, you know, these are the only metrics over 60% where the teams won. If you go down a little bit to the SAGE metric that represents your shot attempt generation efficiency of a team. It's simply the proportion of shots over the total number of shot attempts generated from passes. So how many attempts does a team need to generate these shots? Also, why teams win. They score more goals from passes. This represents, you see the team and the number of games we had tracked included in this right here. These lines represent a team overall passing and non-passing shooting percentages in 5-on-5. The black bar represents their overall shooting percentages. We know NHL teams usually over the course of the season, league-wide, 7.9, 8%, around there. The orange bar, or it looks red on this screen, is their shooting percentage generated from passes. Okay? The purple bar is your shooting percentage when the shot is preceded by multiple passes. More passes, more goals. So when we go through the various permutations of what we track, we come away with 26 different shot sequences. These all take into account whether there's one or two passes, whether they're in transition or in the offensive zone, whether it was a one-timer, whether it was in a scoring chance area, across the Royal Road. And as you see, based on the sequence, this is most of them, the categories. The shooting percentage in the far right column, excuse me, you go through these sequences, you come away and realize that what precedes the shot, whether it's movement, where it comes from, the more work you have to make the goalie track the puck, you see the shooting percentage increase, with the biggest chances being passes across the Royal Road that remained in the home plate area that were one time. Pretty much a goalie sees those, it's his oh shit moment. So now you hear the term scoring chance. Scoring chances can have a variety of danger to them, okay? So you see here, we had on plays that were one-timers and in the scoring chance area from passes, they went in 13.5% of the time. You can go anywhere from the 13.5 up to that 37.1 just on how the puck gets into the scoring chance area and what precedes it. There's a difference if just there's two passes or one. Again, the more work you have to do to make the goalie track, to move, to reset, to find everything, all of that impacts how your chances of scoring. So we're going to get into a little bit of that goalie analysis here. We're going to use Corey Schneider as our lab rat for this and go through the various sequences and how he performed. The first slide here represents shots generated in transition. So whether there were two passes or one, this is the puck moving, the shooter getting the puck, and then moving across controlled entry and taking a shot. You see Schneider stop most of those. This represents the secondary pass in transition, followed by the primary passer gaining the zone, yet another controlled entry, and then making one pass before the shot. You see Schneider did quite well, except for certainly the big chances that we have. This is both passes in the offensive zone. We see some of his numbers drop again. And this is from a single pass. The Royal Road scoring chance one-timer category is blank simply because at the time of the sample size, Schneider had let in all 6 attempts that came via this sequence. So most goalies do, though. So Schneider's save percentage by category from passes. We have Royal Road scoring chance one-timers. Again, the offensive zone outside the scoring chance area, in transition, followed by all attempts from 2 passes, all attempts from 1, and then his overall passing save percentage. So at this point, we had Schneider about 500, 550 shots for the sample size. We move on to our entire population from January, early part of January through the end of March, which was 5,000 shots from passes. And we quickly see, the shooting percentage, the save percentage, stabilize a little bit. We see there's a nearly 3% difference just from a single pass to 2. We see a standard save percentage from this a bit lower than we see average save percentage overall. So here are a couple individual goalies that we had. Again, from our sample size, we don't have the entire league, but what we do is have goalies with at least 300 shots we took a look at. Some goalies through this stretch simply ran hot. Holtby, Cam Talbot, obviously Schneider even had some great games here. Team comparison. I included the Bruins because for whatever quirk of the schedule, when we tracked a lot of Bruins games, we have to track some Tuukka Rask games, some Nicholas Svedberg. So we didn't get as much individual data, but on a team level, we still got over 400 shots for the Bruins. And I included them here for this in the next slide. Their passing save percentage was higher than the other teams we had. And we've seen the Bruins turn out, spectacular goalie after spectacular goalie. We had Tim Thomas, Tuukka Rask, Anton Godobin had a good year. Was able to parlay that in a contract with Carolina. Nicholas Svedberg's actually, when I checked the numbers doing this, his save percentage was close to on par with Tuukka Rask. So are the Bruins just turning out goalies left and right? Or is it the fact that of the shot distribution their goalies face, they face the fewest percentage of Royal Road shots? If a team can, the way it's set up structurally, can influence the danger to their goalie, then what you have is a significant team impact on save percentage for their goalie. Okay, Capitals had the highest percentage of Royal Road attempts a few games after this. Brandon Holtby came back to earth a little bit with his save percentage and Royal Road events. So here's a comparison of some of the passing save percentage of these goalies that we have, plus a few of their backups, just to throw in there. And their corresponding adjusted save percentage for, again, this was games from early to mid-January through the end of March for most of these teams. See most of them, Cam Talbot, I believe was the only one above most of the pass. Again, if more goals come from passes, then their passing save percentage is likely to be lower than overall. So what we did is we took all these sequences, 26 sequences. We had each one receive each sequence. We weighted it on the likelihood of that sequence going into the goal. We were able to look at those weights for the types of shots each goalie faced. And then what we simply wanted to do was measure whether there's a relationship between how many they let up based on the league, the total population size we had of 5,000 shots, likelihood of those events to go in versus what they gave up. And we did see some relationship. Obviously, the more data we get, we'll be able to more thoroughly test this. But it's nice to know, to check your progress on projects once in a while and see, okay, there's an observable relationship here. We see, again, Halak and Luongo and the Islanders and Panthers give up more. Of course, Halak's done that quite recently to Islanders fans, so good luck in the playoffs. The same logic behind this deeper analysis of goalies, we can then flip around and find players that are on the ice for these more valuable possessions. Essentially what we're doing is, you hear the term shot quality thrown a lot. What we're essentially doing is valuing the possession of the entire sequence, okay? So when players on the ice for, majority of their shots are just, one pass in the offensive zone, that is worth significantly less than multiple passes in the offensive zone that are one-timed across the Royal Road, right? So what we're essentially doing is every player's of the 26 sequences, based on the likelihood of that sequence resulting in a goal, weighting all their possessions for or against, and then what we did is we simply took a look at a few things that we're going to get to here. So the first thing was, and this would make sense simply because of the goalie and the expected goals that we looked at, but the more of these weighted possession sequences of players on the ice for, the more goals are going to come from passes. That just makes sense. That doesn't tell us much. But in the next slide, this is total goals for and players on the ice for. So we don't track, a lot of the frustration that we have in our project is we'll see a team track a well-worked shot, very good, crisp passing, and the shot saved and they score on the rebound. We don't track the rebound as the pass generating the goal, simply because once the shot is saved, then our work simply stops unless there's another pass made after that. The reason because, again, we want to eliminate as much randomness as we can. We're tracking as much skill only as we can with these players. But if a goal is scored right after that, it would make sense that teams still score a lot of goals depending on the quality of the sequencing leading up to it. So then we simply took, much in the same way that we look at shot differential, a weighted PSAT, SAT, shot attempts. P just stands for passing, so it's your passing shot attempt differential, and then your goal for differential. All right, and we see relationship here. If a player's on the ice and simultaneously has more of the quality events going forward and is limiting the quality sequences coming his way, it would stand to reason that he's going to come out on the right side of the goal differential most of the time. So again, what we did is we took a look at that in the total goal differential. Just focusing on passing events, we see it drop a little bit, but we still see an early relationship in our data. And at this point, I wanted something to compare it to. So we took a look at Warren Ice's scoring chance metric, which again tries to focus more on these higher quality attempts in and around the goal, whether it was rush shots, rebound attempts. And so using these same players, the 81 forwards we had 200 minutes on from this time period, we took a look at Warren Ice's scoring chance and their goal differential, and we see it drop. Now, Warren Ice's scoring chance metric, and I know Sam's here as well, he might talk about it later. We know the predictive power of this metric, how valuable it is. So if you look at the entire season, all players involved with these same parameters, we see that, it's actually slightly superior than this across the full season. So what we see here is that even with 81 forwards who have played 200 minutes, you still see differences between your population size over the whole season, what sample size can do to things. So curious to see how, as we get more and more data, again, how this relationship evolves. Next thing we looked at was, okay, if a player is on the ice for these weighted sequences, what effect does that have on shooting percentage? And again, we compare that to Warren Ice's scoring chances. Last couple of slides here. PDO, something that we really don't have a shot metric to compare any type of relationship to. We talked about PDO earlier. It's the addition of your shooting percentage and save percentage. But if a player is on the ice, if we're quantifying the valuable sequences that a player is on the ice for, and he's on the ice for more than, again, so he has the greater share of those, and essentially what you're saying is that he's simultaneously improving those percentages for shooting and saving. And if you think of PDO as percentage-driven outcomes, which is, I know Kyle Dubas mentioned that at the Sloan Conference, if you can quantify events that increase those percentages, then essentially what you're doing is increasing your percentage-driven outcomes. And again, we compared that to Warren Ice's scoring chances again as well. So, any metric has to pass the logic test. Jonathan Toews is pretty good. So, and the interesting thing about this chart is, if you look at Toews and Nick Backstrom's Corsi percentages were nearly identical, both around 54.5%, 55% for the time period that we had. But you see a 10% increase here because, again, if you get it more of the quality of the sequencing, not just simply a shot attempt differential, then it stands to reason that, okay, Toews offensively, was simply on par with Backstrom, but defensively, no player was better over the 81 forwards at eliminating these quality sequences. Teams had a harder time setting up quality passing shot attempts when Toews was on the ice more than any other forward that we had. Okay, so as I wrap up here, just a few more slides. Again, it goes back to this idea of what can we quantify on the ice that we don't have now, right? Dallas Aikens at the Sloan Conference said it's a 3-2 league. So anything we can track that reveals tendencies that can provide any sort of situational advantage, however slight, is certainly important. And what this does is it bridges the gap between your high-level analytics and coaching. How can I improve my Corsi? Well, it's not the easiest question to answer, but if we can, combine with video and isolate these passing sequences that, hey, this player is consistently stuck out against for Royal Road passes when they're on the ice. Let's go to the video, pull up the events, find out what they're doing wrong. And then we can improve from there. A couple of acknowledgments I want to make. Everyone on this list, except for Warren Ice, of course, they're busy with other things, has tracked at least one game this season as part of the project. The 4 names in bold, I've actually tracked every game for certain teams this season. Ryan Stoll is actually in the back today. Ryan, you can stand up. It's okay. You can wave. Let him know. Let him see it. There we go. Okay. So, if you have questions out and, can't find me or whatever, Ryan can answer. He knows just as much about this stuff as I do. I can't thank these guys enough. And War on Ice, Sam is here from War on Ice. You'll talk to him later. For, about half of the 400 games we have, I've uploaded to War on Ice. And we're working on a way to make everything public eventually. But they've been helping pull the on ice data so we can take a look at this. Okay, so if you're not currently tracking for someone's project, my question is why? At the Ottawa conference, Emmanuel Perry gave some work, presentation on the work he's done with this Blue Line project. He's going to be looking for people this coming season. If this is of no interest to you, I won't be offended. Go help him out. Recently, I've seen Jen Lucastella on Twitter ask for volunteers for projects she is working on. Tracking games can give us significantly better data than what we work with now, and you learn a tremendous amount about it. So go do it. And then over the summer, as we finish Track and Gather more, we'll look into how repeatable a lot of these metrics are, how predictable they are, and then again, hopefully making things public, unless Sam and Andrew say no, and then I'm kind of out of luck. But there's my email if you have any questions, comments, and that's it for me.